aspect as well and report to the House. But this rendition is only concerned with the cultural and religious sites in terms of preserving their significance. But it leaves out the grave human rights concerns, the attacks on the people of Adan as came up during the proceedings. And that is why you asked the Defense and Interior Committee to also play a role in terms of the list of committees that you gave responsibilities to. So, Mr. Speaker, this rendition will have to be re-looked at so that it can capture the full essence of what transpired that day. I'm grateful.
Honourable Member, I think you are right. We need to capture that table office and also focus on the maintenance of peace and security in the area. It's very, very paramount. Page, yes, Honourable Member.
Right, Honourable Speaker, page 13.
Yes.
Item number 12, the last paragraph. The Honourable Second Deputy Speaker, on behalf of the Right Honourable Speaker, thanked Honourable members for the positive response. Response RES, S. Messen. RES, S. Messen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Table office, kindly take note. Honourable members, with this, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the second extraordinary sitting dated Wednesday, 4th September 2024 are adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honourable members, official report. I have two official reports. The first one dated 28th June 2024. Please. Yes, please.
I'm going to Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, column 118, the second paragraph at column 118. This is on the tribute that was very well delivered by the respected Honourable Benson Togo Baba in memory of the Honourable John Akogo Tia. The paragraph says that, Mr. Speaker, in 2009, the late President, Professor John Evans Atta Mills, appointed him as Minister for Information. In 2012, he contested again to represent his constituents, but unfortunately, he lost in that election to the paramount chief of Galamsey traditional area, Tongo Ran Mosori Kobila Song. Right Honourable Speaker, at the time of the contest, he was not the paramount chief. Since our constitution does not allow chiefs to engage in active politics and to contest in elections, we cannot allow this rendition to stand in our records. So we can amend this to say that he lost to the Honourable Robert Nachinam Doamang Mosori, who later became the paramount chief of the Galamsey traditional area. That will be a more accurate and constitutionally acceptable rendition, as Dr. Ayeni will say. I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, table office, take note of that. Honourable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the official report of
I didn't.
the official report of Friday, the 8th June 2024 is table office. Take note of that. Standard is with an S, standards. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the official report of Tuesday, 2nd July 2024 is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Honorable members, we now move on to a business statement for the first week, and this will be presented to the House by the chairman of the Business Committee, in the person of the Majority Leader. Please, Majority Leader, you may do so now.
Mr. Speaker, this is the 5th meeting of the 4th session of the 8th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we have before you the explanatory memorandum on the business statement for the first week ending Friday, the 18th of October, 2024. Mr. Speaker, it's a 4-page report. Same has been printed and circulated to all members. I shall rely on same and move that the House adopts this report to enable us rely on same as a guide for our week's deliberation. Thank you so much, sir.
Honorable members, the report has been presented. Yes, any comments? Honorable Haruna Idrisu.
Hello. All right, thank you. Mr. Speaker, let me thank you very much for the opportunity. The business statements have been presented. But Mr. Speaker, in respect of illegal mining called Galamsey and the harm it has done to our natural environment, our water bodies and livelihoods, it is not about who is successful or who is not successful. Every Ghanaian knows that we are failing. Mr. Speaker, it will be my request that you take up this matter much more seriously and invite the 3 ministers of state, the Minister for Lands, Natural Resources, the Minister for National Security, the Minister for Interior, and all other institutions involved and the Minister for Environment, Mr. Speaker, to publicly account to Ghanaians through you how much have so far been spent in the name of fighting illegal mining and Galamsey, and how much destruction in terms of official report to our water bodies. And Mr. Speaker, you can give consequential direction. The people of Ghana expect that of us as Parliament, that we hold persons in whom we have entrusted the supervision of our natural resources accountable. And Mr. Speaker, the Constitution vests our natural resources in the hands of the President. So, Mr. Speaker, that would be my first take. My second, Mr. Speaker, is taking it from your own words. The conduct of free, fair, credible election, we should all be mindful of what we do and what we say. Mr. Speaker, the Committee on Special Budget will have to, as a matter of urgency, engage with the Electoral Commission of Ghana and probably invite the chairperson and other officials of the Electoral Commission, including the Minister for Interior and the Inspector General of Police, to share with us their roadmap to the conduct of free, fair, credible elections. Mr. Speaker, in respect of the Electoral Commission, I have some information. As I raised the last time, 75,000 devices. You are buying batteries only 3,500. 75,000 devices. The Electoral Commission, even after expanding electoral polling stations, is only procuring an additional 8 to 10,000 BVDs. And then, Mr. Speaker, backup. What is here? Give me what you have, that white thing there. The Electoral Commission is also to increase the number of power banks. How many have they acquired? How functional will the biometric devices be on 7th December so that we don't have to rely on manual voting? Because, Mr. Speaker, that will engender fraud and may occasion electoral fraud if persons are asked to use a manual system instead of the electronic devices. Finally, Mr. Speaker, taking it from the minority leader and majority leader, we are hearing that some 3,000 Ghana cities or a number of farmers, 800,000 farmers, are rising out of a drought situation in the north. Mr. Speaker, my question to the leaders and to your good self is that how many members of Parliament from the north in the affected areas have been so engaged in the determination of who benefit what? And we demand that no such decision or approval should be taken without the involvement of the members of Parliament from the north, from the affected communities, making input into determining who gets what from the Ministry of Agric and Ministry of Agriculture, including the regional and district agric offices and members of Parliament. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, it may as well be somebody wanting 800,000 votes through the back door and giving monies to farmers in the name of farming in order to lure and endure those people. So, Mr. Speaker, may I request through you that the Honorable Minister for Agriculture and Finance work through members of Parliament. Then we know they mean well for farmers in the north, because to every constituency there is a farmer who determines who benefits from this government package. But when they finally come to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, we'll make a determination. So, Mr. Speaker, may I request that the Electoral Commission be invited to your Committee on Special Budget to tell us their preparations for the election, the state of the register. We are aware that in the past, ballot papers were printed on the basis of final voter register, not provisional voter register. But they must respond to the issue of biometric devices, acquisition of batteries, power banks, and related issues. And then they must also justify to us what are the financial inadequacies so far that the Ministry of Finance have not met their request or requirement. Then we can make a case for them strongly. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, before we proceed, I want to know what is happening to the right side of the House. I see a large number of members of parliament at the back having a conversation. Please, honorable members, may we have your attention? You are allowed to move out of the presence and have your discussion, but not standing on the floor in that large number as if nothing is happening. Please, comments. Yes, Honorable Muntaka Mubarak.
Come here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, going through the business statement, item 5 is indicative as decision day. And Mr. Speaker, I wanted to take this opportunity to plead with the leadership to consider the days of sitting, having in mind the exigencies of the time. If it was for me to suggest, is to suggest that we sit Tuesday and end on Thursdays. So at least Fridays and Mondays can be because of travel time, Mr. Speaker. So Speaker, the flag bearers are crisscrossing the country, and many MPs are expected to be in their constituencies to welcome them. And for practical reasons, you can see today, even the first day, how empty the chamber is. If we can all agree to concentrate on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then we know that we have all the businesses. Then Friday we start traveling back, and you know that you can start traveling back to Accra on Monday. Mr. Speaker, that way, I'm suggesting that may be a very practical way of dealing with the challenges that we have. And if that is considered by the leadership, I want to suggest that the decision day should be Thursday instead of Wednesday. Because, Mr. Speaker, as you may know, Wednesdays are the starting days, and usually you wouldn't have had enough to take a decision on Wednesday. But if you push the decision day to Thursday, you will have worked for Tuesday and Wednesday, and there may be enough for decision to be taken. I thought that I needed to make this suggestion known and see if leadership may consider that, so as to make the workings around this time much easier and more practical for all of us. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable, who is the senior now? Then you are the senior. Age matters. Honorable member, you seem to be senior. Yes, please. Not one of age from birth, but in the house.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the submission of the leader of the House about the fertilizer is the issue that we need to probe. Because if you go to various constituencies, the affected constituencies, Mr. Speaker, they've given the fertilizers to their pieces that they are sharing. The MPP are sharing, and they want to trap we the MPs that they've given us fertilizers. Mr. Speaker, they went to radio and everywhere that they've given MPs fertilizers to share. And Mr. Speaker, I went to the radio and told them I'm not the agric director to share fertilizer, because MPs don't share fertilizers. We have the agric directors who are in charge of the fertilizer. So, Mr. Speaker, this fertilizer issue needs to be investigated, needs to be probed, So because we need to engage the MPs, because we know we've given the mandate to finance minister to give agri minister money to purchase fertilizer to help the affected areas. So they should come clear so that we probe the matter to know the fact of the matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, now, Honourable Member for Bole Bamboy.
Mr. Speaker, I'm very grateful. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Majority Leader for the business statement. Mr. Speaker, I have a few issues that I want to draw his attention to. The first one has to do with the importation of rice and grains by the Ministry of Agric. There is a letter that I have in my hand here where the Minister of Agric had written to Ministry of Finance asking for some tax exemptions so that they import grains, rice, and what have you in order to mitigate what they refer to as crisis with respect to the drought in the northern part of this country. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for us to bring the Minister of Agric to this House to come and tell us how he got the tax exemptions without parliamentary approval. He shouldn't be allowed to undermine this House. It is only this House that can give tax exemptions. And so we need him here to come and tell us whether indeed he's gone ahead to secure tax exemptions without any approval from this great House. Mr. Speaker, it is also important for us to know how he was able to select those rice importers. What process did he go through? Did he go through any procurement or any transparent process to select those rice importers? We need to know, because some rice importers have even petitioned the minister, and I have a copy of the letter here. Mr. Speaker, sometimes there's no crisis. Our colleagues on the other side will create crisis in order to make some benefit out of it. When we talk about drought, when there's a drought, let's say this year, the impact is normally felt in the subsequent year. There's a drought for 2 months, and we started talking about crisis. I think that it is going to be a self-created crisis in order for people to make money out of it. And this must be stopped. Mr. Speaker, my second issue has to do with the withdrawal of the military from GBC. There is a need for the defense minister to come to this House and give us reasons why why he withdrew the military officers from GBC. This is something that we have all grown to see. I have seen them since I became active in politics, and so I don't know why all of a sudden, especially in an election year like this, that the defense minister is withdrawing the military from that outfit. I think that we need him here to come and tell us why he's doing that. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, the minority leader, the majority leader, both talked about the issue of Galamsey. This very House, unfortunately, passed a law, Act 2462, to allow people to do, whether it's legal or illegal, small-scale mining in our forest. I think it's unfortunate, and I want to appeal to this great House that we repeal this act. We must find a way of repealing that act. And so I want to appeal to the majority leader. Majority leader, if you are listening to me, majority leader, if you are listening to me, I passionate appeal to you that this House must find a way of repealing Act 2462 in the interest of this country. If indeed we are LI, if we are committed in fighting Galamsey and illegal mining, and if we are committed in ensuring that our environment is protected, then this law must be repealed and repealed immediately. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to thank you and to hope that very soon I'll be sitting at the right side of you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, Suhini. Honorable Suhini.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the business statement that has been made ably by the soon-to-be minority leader. I mean, the majority leader, forgive me. Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate the call made by Honorable Haruna Idrisu on the majority leader, who is also the leader of government business, to see to it that as soon as possible, especially this week, the House should find time to invite the ministers responsible for environment, the minister responsible for lands and natural resources, and the national security minister, and if possible, the minister responsible for defense, to brief the House, as the Honorable Haruna Idrisu has stated, on how much has been expended so far on this fight against Galamsey that is never ending, and what our successes have been so far, and the lessons that we have learned that can impact whatever fight we intend to wage now and in the future. Mr. Speaker, whilst at that, I also wish to indicate that it is important that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources is also called upon to submit before this House all the mining licenses that we are told have been issued in the last 2 to 3 years. Mr. Speaker, it is alarming to note that in the last 4 years, over 2,000 mining licenses, we are told, have been issued. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the 1992 Constitution, Article 2681 and 2 clearly states, and with your permission, I quote, "Any transaction, contract, or undertaking involving the grant of a right or concession by or on behalf of any person, including the government of Ghana, to any other person or body of persons, howsoever described." For the that's why I'm stating however described. For the exploitation of any mineral, water, or other natural resources of Ghana made or entered into after the coming into force of this Constitution shall be subject to ratification by Parliament. The Speaker 2 says that Parliament may, by resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all members of Parliament, exempt from the provision of clause 1 of this article any particular class of transactions, contract, or undertakings. Mr. Speaker, I am unaware of this House granting any exemptions. And that is why it is important that, especially given the alarming nature of the licenses that have been issued within this period, we demand that those licenses be brought before this House for thorough examination and possible rejection or ratification. Mr. Speaker, our constituents are demanding of us. They want to know what our role is as far as this fight is concerned. And I think the first step this House has to undertake, or the first step we have to take, is to ensure that we look into the way and manner these licenses have been issued and play our role as expected of us under Article 2681 and 2. So, Mr. Speaker, I reiterate the call for the ministers responsible for this fight to brief us on the issue of accountability and how much has been expended so far and what the gains are and the lessons that have been learned. And I also demand that the licenses that have been issued for the exploitation of these minerals be brought to this House for ratification. And I hope that it will be contained by the majority leader and space will be found for all of this to be done this week. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable Dafiamakpo.
Speaker, thank you once more for the opportunity to comment on the business statement. Speaker, in doing so, let me quickly make my first point, which is to the effect that the majority leader mentioned that government is preparing a package for some 800,000 distressed farmers who suffered some drought. Mr. Speaker, it's a House of Records. Mr. Speaker, sometime on 26th of August this year, the ministries of Agric, the Finance Ministry, as well as the Ministry of Defense, got together and held a press conference and announced that the number of farmers were 900,000. And again, they declared a policy of cessation of grain exportation across our borders and deployed the military to the borders to enforce this policy. So the numbers between 800,000 and 900,000 is very significant. And we need to agree on these numbers. Mr. Speaker, again, as a House, we want to know how the data of the 800,000 or the 900,000 were gathered and which entity determined the names of these farmers and from where. Mr. Speaker, regarding the matter of the distribution of fertilizers, Speaker, as I speak to you, the consignment that is supposedly sent to Southern in my name is sitting in the residence of the DCE, who is also the MPP parliamentary candidate.
Yes, yes.
And he says that I should come and beg him. I should come to his house and come and beg him, kneel down before he will give the fertilizers. So, Mr. Speaker, these matters are very serious matters. You give MP 400 fertilizers to distribute in Ketu South. How is she supposed to do that? You allocate 400 fertilizers to an MP in Southern to give to some fertilizers, to some farmers. Who am I supposed to give to and who am I supposed to leave out? So as MPs, we are not supposed to be fertilizer distributors. And the fertilizers that are supposed to be given to the MPs are supposedly given to the DCs, who in a lot of their constituencies are doubling as our opponents in the political contest that is raging on. So this matter ought to be interrogated and the proper things done, because there will be an accountability tomorrow. If a fertilizer is supposed to come to Southern and it doesn't go to the right people, the entities that are responsible will have to account for it. Mr. Speaker, my last point. The Electoral Commission, as we speak, is supposedly exhibiting the provisional register. And Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Regulation 23(1) of CI 126, the exhibition of the voters' register has a formula provided. The register has to be exhibited at the registration center where it was conducted. If you ask that my grandmother in the village should go online and check her name, how is she supposed to do that? In any case, as part of the exhibition processes, if I want to challenge somebody's name on the register, there are processes provided under the law. So the only online exhibition being conducted by the Electoral Commission, indeed within a limited period between today and sometime on Thursday, is irregular, mostly irregular. So the Electoral Commission must learn to conduct its own functions of office in accordance with the law that sets it up. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I thank you for the opportunity.
Majority Leader, you may respond to the comments.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I listened to my colleagues and all the views they've expressed. Specifically, Honorable Harun Idrisu called on us to ensure that the MPs are part of the distribution of the fertilizers and all the support. That the support, wait, Mr. Speaker, the support that government is giving to the farmers affected include cash and fertilizers. He is saying that the MPs should be involved in such support. So that is his call. So he's not against the support. All he's saying is that the MPs should be involved. Mr. Speaker, the MPs have been involved. The minister made a public announcement. And in that announcement, he called on stakeholders to work closely with him. Honorable Defemako is saying that it is not the duty of an MP to distribute fertilizers. So I think that we need to reconcile his point and that of Honorable Harun Idrisu's point. But Mr. Speaker, the most important thing is that people have been affected by this drought situation. And they are getting support from government. They are getting support from government. I didn't come out with the 800,000 figure. The 800,000 came from the minority leader. But Mr. Speaker, what is wrong if our farmers are getting 3,000? Farmers have lost their livelihood. Mr. Speaker, the farmers in the north have lost their livelihood. Especially the women. They've lost their millet. They've lost their maize, Mr. Speaker. And government is giving them cash to enable them feed. Should we watch them to die? Mr. Speaker, no. This government believes in social intervention and is supporting them. So, Mr. Speaker, I think that we should continue to support government to undertake this exercise. However, I agree to the suggestion that there should be greater transparency. That one, I agree. Because in the process, the data regarding those who benefit must be known to all. So I agree to that one. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of the Electoral Commission, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Harun Idrisu is very particular about the activities of the EC, that those items to be procured are supposed to be done on time so that we don't have problems at all. But Mr. Speaker, it is on record that the only time that the Electoral Commission could not ensure a single day voting in this country was in 2012. That we voted in 2 days, 2012. But after 2012, we have not had any such problem. So I would want to take solace in the fact that 2016, 2020, the Electoral Commission did commendably well, and we should encourage them to do better as compared to what they did in 2012, where we couldn't do it the same day. So, Mr. Speaker, his call comes at the right time, and I support that call. On the issues of procurement, I believe that when they appear before us, they will be able to tell us the challenges that they are facing. Mr. Speaker, it's on record that anytime we invited the EC chair, she appeared before us. So let's encourage her to come again to address our concerns. Mr. Speaker, I believe that these are about all the points that were raised. I avail myself for further responses as the questions come. Thank you.
Yes, Deputy Minority Leader.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, at the Business Committee meeting, a Minority Leader raised two very important, actually he made two important proposals. One was a proposal for a decision day, possibly on Wednesday, and I think that the Honorable Monteka has suggested a Thursday. He also made a proposal for us to sit on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and made a strong proposal that it will help this House in accomplishing what we have set out to do, especially in this time of our election where members to focus not only on the election but the important parliamentary duties. So we'll be really focusing on that. The majority leader did not necessarily oppose it. In fact, was amenable to that. But that did not find expression in the business statement. And so I think it's important that members know that these issues were raised. The majority leader supported it. And I think it's important for him to state publicly on this view so that we can go from there. We think that it is a win-win proposal that allows us to focus the important parliamentary business while at the same time having enough time to deal with the critical election that is left with less than 2 months. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Neil Antebe-Andapoy.
Right, Honourable Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the majority leader has just made things a bit confusing for me. You're talking about a policy decision that you have taken to assist farmers presumably affected by drought. You have a figure and you have a budget, meaning you've done your own assessment and know the people who have been affected and where those people are located. Our colleagues here, especially the Honourable Member of Parliament for, is it Sene? Sene, has made a critical case of a possible parliamentary bipartisan committee to investigate this so-called handout to affected farmers. I was expecting the leader to look at that issue and that call, because all of us here are asking that if you are being able to determine that 3,000 cedis per person is enough to take care of those affected, then you would have done the necessary research and calculated everything. And so there's nothing wrong telling us here in Parliament, since you are our leader, that these are the people who are affected in these parts of the country, and not just stand here and tell us in the north. Where in the north? Today we have northern region, northeast, savannah, and you can't just come and stand and say north. Where in the north? Which part of the north? And what was the criteria used in doing the assessment and coming to the conclusion that they will need 3,000 cedis per person? These are things that we must know. Because if people ask us outside, as members of parliament representing them, we should be able to explain to them convincingly how this is going to be done. So, Mr. Speaker, I think immediately the call by the Honourable Member of Parliament for Senate must be looked at so that we don't have enough time. So we look at this situation critically. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I get very worried when I hear comments like, let's come together, when the issue of Galamsey and the effects on the environment is raised. Mr. Speaker, the other issue is let's take politics out. Mr. Speaker, I believe that whatever we do here is politics. We have elected a political party to govern us. The same political party has appointed political activists to head various institutions. Mr. Speaker, and therefore we cannot take politics out of it. Mr. Speaker, what is lacking is the fact that people do not want to take responsibility. Leadership has failed. And therefore, leadership must take responsibility for what is going on. We don't need to unite. I don't see where the unity comes in. It is about seeing empirical evidence that people are cutting down cocoa trees. And therefore, we don't need to unite to get the soldiers, the police, to arrest those who are doing that. Mr. Speaker, we have leadership. And because leadership has failed, that is where we have gotten to where we are. So, Mr. Speaker, the issue about we coming together has no place in this. We have laws that govern exploitation of minerals in this country. The laws are not being adhered to. Who is responsible? Let us hold them responsible and stop being hypocritical about this. When it shoots, we say yes, we unite. Today we have, an appointee has taken a decision to share 3,000 to farmers. Did we unite? How did we get there? A decision has been taken. The responsibility must be taken by leadership. When leadership fails, let us accept responsibility. That is the way to go. I see this all as just a gimmick. People are just involved, and they cannot look in the faces of their colleagues who are involved to stop them, and that's what is happening. On that note, Mr. Speaker, that issue about let us come together, I don't see how it is going to solve the problem. Let us take responsibility as leaders. Otherwise, let us get away from whichever office that we are occupying now and get people who are responsible and competent to take charge of these institutions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No.
Minority Chief Whip.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. When my colleague was making the point for the call for our colleague, the Minister of Agri, to come clearer, one of the main points he made was to apprise the House on the methods used to procure the items, i.e., how were the suppliers selected? What is how much we are spending on this? How did they determine the amount of money to be given to each farmer? Is there data? It's a tax waiver, yes. Also on the how the importers got tax waivers for importing the rice and other things. And Mr. Speaker, they talk about drought in the north, and we colleagues from the north are saying that which part of the north are you talking about? And how were you able to determine how much loss they are going to incur in terms of the grains and other things? So the Minister of Agri cannot just because the speed at which the comment came and then the procurement, it's as if the procurement for the grains was almost effected before they talk about how many people are affected. Mr. Speaker, those are the things that our colleagues talked about when they were talking about this. So maybe let the leader take note of this and make the Minister of Agri. And then, Mr. Speaker, lastly, what Honourable Member for Senate spoke about. Mr. Speaker, it is widespread information that the Minister of Agri gave fertilizers to members of Parliament to distribute. Mr. Speaker, as a matter of fact, the letter the Minister wrote to me, copied the Agri Minister, said the MPs should assist the DCE in selection of 100 farmers. Yes, that's the letter I read, Mr. Speaker. And I said, we have 32,000 farmers in Adaklu. I have no method of selecting 100 out of them. So, Mr. Speaker, when they finished the distribution, an electoral area in Adaklu got 22 bags of fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, I can tell you, do you know what they are doing? They open the fertilizer bags like rice and put a cap on it and are distributing. Because the whole electoral area of 5 towns have got 22 bags of fertilizer. So, do you really mean to help farmers, or is just cosmetic, or you just want to muddy the waters? Because 22 bags of fertilizer cannot be shared to over 4,000 people. How are you expecting them to share that? So, Mr. Speaker, the Minister, our colleague, is here. Let him explain his intention of writing that letter and how effective that exercise is supposed to be.
Yes, Honourable Helen Ntoso.
We've had this been up.
Sorry, who has been up?
Mr. Speaker, with respect, Honorable Brian Achampon.
Oh, I'll get.
Mr. Speaker, because of the.
Yes, you are right. You are right. I've taken notice of it now. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I would like to know from the Minister for Agric, when we talk about drought in this country, it means that he's talking about the northern part of the country. Drought is a disaster. May I know from the minister, because when it comes to disasters, I know that it is NADMO that is responsible, is the lead agency to be in charge of drought, which is a national disaster. Did the Ministry of Agric work with the National Disaster Management Organization? Because when it comes to disaster and giving out monies or relief, they've got to have the data, households. You cannot just say you were giving an individual 3,000 Ghana cedis. You've got to look at the household, because some of the households is 3 people in the household, 5 people. For international standard is 5. So how did they come about with the data that they are going to use to distribute this money? And if you're talking about drought, the vegetation in the northern region is not different from the vegetation in OT region. So if they are saying that there was drought in the northern region, are they saying that they didn't see anything like that happen in the OT region? So I think that the data that they have, Mr. Speaker, it is not the true data that the Ministry of Agriculture or the Ministry of Agric is having. They have to consult the MPs in the various constituencies to work with them and to work with NADMO so that they can have the credible data for this distribution of monies that they want to undertake. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
May we hear from the minister, since he's around, the Minister for Food and Agric, then we can continue with the comments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I do acknowledge that this is a business statement, and so I will be very brief, just to clear some misconceptions and confusion. Starting with my respected honorable, we have not declared a national disaster or a drought. What we mentioned was that it is a dry spell. A dry spell. And a dry spell is totally different from a drought condition, which would have necessitated the declaration of a national disaster. A dry spell, a near drought condition, is not a drought. It's not a declaration of a state of emergency. Please, it is very, very important. We have not declared a drought. We said a dry spell. A dry spell. You can play back my statement. You can play back all my press conferences. It was a dry spell. Number 2, we have not said anywhere that we are giving 3,000 cedis to any farmer. We have not said anywhere. In my press conferences from the beginning, I mentioned that we are going to give 1,000 Ghana cedis per farmer. Number 3, Mr. Speaker, we have delivered fertilizers under different programs. The first one was the grant fertilizers, which we gave to every farmer that is registered on the Ghana Agriculture and Agribusiness platform. We gave them grant fertilizers. We also gave members of parliament fertilizers to be given to vulnerable, the very vulnerable farmers that you will identify. So if you have a copy of the letter, that I gave to you, and every member of parliament has a copy of that letter, if you read the letter, it is clear that if you can identify very vulnerable farmers in your constituency, we are allocating these fertilizers to you to give to these very vulnerable farmers, up to 100 of them. That was stated in the letter. And we requested that if you identify these vulnerable farmers, make sure that they are registered on the GAB, give them the fertilizers, and then give us a list of those farmers. So we did not ask you to open the bag of fertilizers and distribute them as though you are giving a cup of fertilizer to farmers. That is not what the instruction is. You have a copy of the letter. You can apprise Ghanaians what the instructions were. If you read the instructions that were given, I'm sure that the right thing shall be done. Mr. Speaker, the grant fertilizers, the fertilizers to the vulnerable farmers, is totally different from the fertilizers that we are delivering to the dry spell farmers. That we just started moving those fertilizers into the regions. And we have asked all stakeholders, including members of parliament, to ensure for accountability and transparency that those farmers are registered on the Ghana Agriculture and Agribusiness platform, because that is the only way a farmer can be identified and given support. And that is why we have invited members of parliament, district chief executives, and community leaders to help register the farmers so that we can account properly to parliament, we can account to the Ghanaian people where the resources of state is going to. So it's transparent. If you so happen, and I've had several members of parliament who've had their fertilizers in a way withheld by DCs, and I've received calls. I don't want to mention names. If I'm dead, I will. That I have personally called these DCEs to release the fertilizers to my colleague members of parliament who are having challenges getting the fertilizers. In fact, I have had calls to, on one occasion, call the leader of the minority about the situation. So there's total transparency in how we are delivering government resources to the Ghanaian people. We encourage all farmers through their leadership, through their leaders, to help the farmers register so that we can give the farmers, nobody anywhere can receive inputs from the Ministry of Agriculture without being properly registered, so that we can come and account to the Ghanaian people. So it is important that we settle the confusion. I'm going to come back in any statement, in whatever form, to give proper accounts to the Ghanaian people. How we procured inputs for distribution for the dry spell. We went through the processes. Mr. Speaker, with the permission of the right question, I'll come here to the floor and answer to the Ghanaian people the level of transparency with which we are implementing this government program. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to quickly make a point after the minister responsible for agriculture just spoke. Mr. Speaker, I say this because December last year, Parliament approved a budget for the Minister for Agriculture. That budget did not anticipate 800,000 farmers, of which you will pay 1,000 Ghana cedis each to, according to your own numbers. Mr. Speaker, that budget did not anticipate expenditure of 3-point-something billion for dry spell. And for the minister to spend that kind of money without parliamentary approval, Mr. Speaker, that is the question. And the members of parliament want to find out, was this properly appropriated? Was this properly appropriated? Mr. Speaker, that is the question. And Mr. Speaker, we are aware that they are awarding contract for the purchases of rice. And we want to know how this is being distributed, Mr. Speaker, and we want to know the scientific way in which they came across the way this was done, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we are raising this question, because expenditure of about 3 billion, Mr. Speaker, we are concerned because not long ago this country went into crisis because of the way COVID money was spent. COVID money was spent. Are we going to hide behind the same dry spell and send this country to another crisis? Mr. Speaker, we should get involved. In an election year, we should get involved. And that is why we are saying that the minister must be invited properly. He must appear he must appear before us properly and then present to us
what is called the so-called dry spell and the amount of money you are spending, because we have not approved for you to spend any money on this dry spell. We have not approved for you. So please come properly and let us actually look into the details of what you are spending. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, please don't let this be lost onto you. Just comments on the business statement.
Mr. Speaker.
That have been present. Just comments on business statement. The other issues you are raising, we have tools to handle them as we go along. Please, comments on the business statement. Honorable Bernard Ahiafo has been on his feet for some time. Let me listen to him. Then
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Joseph has been.
After that, I will.
I have been on my feet for a long time too, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Going to Honorable Sarah Adjoa Safo. I was just going to mention your name, and you decided to interject, and you are happy laughing.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for finally acknowledging me on. I had been on my feet for a while, so when you started Honorable, I thought you were going to call somebody else. That's why I interrupted. I sincerely apologize, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
I've been called Bernard Ahiafo. So sit down. Sit down. After me, Speaker will recognize you.
No, Mr. Speaker was asking why I was busily laughing, and so I just stood to actually explain why I was a bit out of order. That's why, Mr. Speaker. I sincerely apologize.
Please go on.
I have the floor.
Yes.
All right, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was on my feet because I was a bit lost on what we were doing on the floor, because I remember the majority leader rising and presenting the business statement. But the question line and the line of questioning from most members that have been on their feet is asking for further and better particulars on the issue about fertilizers, the issue about members getting involved, which I thought I was going to catch your eye early to draw your attention to the fact that we could invite the minister to come in the form of a statement, or members could file a question properly so-called within the scope and ambit of our standing orders, so that he can properly prepare and come in. Because standing orders talks about relevance. So I was flipping through the business statement, the 3-paged business statement of the majority leader, and I couldn't find the basis for the questioning. But Mr. Speaker, you rightly intervened and actually cautioned members that this is the time for business statement, and our comments should be restricted to what has been presented by the majority leader. So I am not saying that the concerns being raised by members should be brushed off or are not necessary. That is not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that let's do what our rules permit us to do, which is that if we have genuine concerns about how fertilizers are being distributed and whether we've actually authorized the minister or approved any finances for that, I think that we would be fair to the minister if we file proper questions or we ask him to present a statement. Then we can all debate the statement thoroughly, both sides. But now the way it looks is as if we're taking him out of the blues. It's like, Mr. Speaker, when you're practicing, you get to the law court and your opposing counsel just pulls out something out of the blues. We call it ambush litigation. It's as if we're catching the minister ambush. So he would be able to provide some level of answers to what we're asking, but I think that this is a house of record. Everything that we're saying here would be in the hazards for posterity to judge. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's give him time to prepare and present a proper statement or file questions where he will be given ample time to answer, Mr. Speaker. I thank you for the opportunity, but you've rightly ruled that we should stay within what is being discussed, which is the business statement for today. So, Minority Leader, you are out of order, so come properly. Thank you.
Honorable members, may we listen to Honorable Bernard Ahiafo. Again, I emphasize we are dealing with a business statement, and let's restrict our comments to that. Yes, Honorable Bernard Ahiafo.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I know we are commenting on the business statement, but there are some matters emanating from the Agric Minister which we must clear the doubt. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the information in my constituency is that I, Bernard Ahiafo, MP for Akachi South, has been given fertilizers, but I went and sold the fertilizers. Mr. Speaker, I intend taking a legal action against those who are making such statements against me. Mr. Speaker, for the minister to say that members of parliament have been given fertilizer, and I know from my side that members, including Bernard Ahiafo, was not given any fertilizer. The district chief executive never even called me about fertilizer. The Agric director never even called me about fertilizer. I have not received even one bag of fertilizer. So, Mr. Speaker, once this is a house of record, we need to clear the air that I have not received even one cup of fertilizer, let alone going to sell it. Mr. Speaker, if the minister is picking and choosing, then that is a different thing altogether. Because I know my opponent contesting me on the ticket of MPP has been distributing fertilizers, but I do not have a single bag. If that is what they are doing, then there is a need for the general public to be aware of it, and my constituents should listen to me, that I am standing on the floor of Parliament to make this declaration that I have not received a single bag of fertilizer. If the minister is here, and you can prove that I, Bernard Ahiafo, have received a single bag of fertilizer, stand up and say it for the general public to hear. I have not received a bag of fertilizer from you.
Honorable members, let me allow the majority leader to respond to some of the comments. The minister, yes, Minister for Food and Agric, you have his say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's important that we put it on record that I, Brian Echampo, Minister for Food and Agriculture, I have dispatched to Honorable Ahiafo in his name 300 bags of NPK, 100 bags of urea. That fertilizer was received at the district agric office, okay, in his name. I have given Honorable Ahiafo a letter to that effect, and all he has to do is to, if he has not, I have sent it to him in his name. It has been received in the district nationwide. I have every record. I have every record of fertilizers that has been sent to every district. And so if you have not received your fertilizer, please go to your district office. The fertilizer is there, and in the unlikely event that they tell you that it is not, come back to me. I'm your colleague, and especially I'm your friend, and I'll make sure that you get it. We were on this floor when your leader, when your leader mentioned that he has received his fertilizer, but it was not in the quantities that will satisfy his whole constituency, and that he had to distribute them in cups. So it is not true that we discriminated the distribution of fertilizer across the country. I can mention every MP from your side who has received fertilizer on top of my head. Please, it has been sent to you in your name. Go to your district, collect the fertilizer, and give to the vulnerable farmers as we have dictated in the letter. And if you have any challenges, please let me know, and I'll help you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, the exchanges are now going beyond comments on the business statement. Minister, you may need to get time to come to brief the House with the details you have. Just responding now, you know, there are some slippages. It could be off tongue. Because now you just stated that you can say off the cap the fertilizer you've sent to each and every member of parliament, and you can say off the cap which member of parliament received, because you say received the fertilizer. Now his issue is that he is being said to have received them and he sold them. Now, if you can tell off the cap of your head, can you tell us whether he, in particular, received, you know, because you are making it on the floor of the House, and this is a very serious matter, whether he received the fertilizer?
Mr. Speaker, it was a process. First is to notify the Member of Parliament that we are going to send 300 bags of MPK, 100 bags of urea to you. We first sent the letters to the Members of Parliament, both sides. I sent it to the leaders, and I know that they distributed it to their members. That was the first step. The second step is that we sent the fertilizers to the districts. And every member of parliament was to collect the fertilizer from the district and give it to 100 vulnerable farmers. And then after distribution, submit the list to the ministry. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that every district in this country, the ministry has dispatched the fertilizers to. I am also aware that in some districts, the members of parliament on both sides are having challenges with the DCEs. Mr. Speaker, you have cases where on our side, members of parliament that are not contesting are having challenges with their DCEs in collecting the fertilizers. I am also aware that, for example, the MP for Ejura on this side called me that the DCE does not want to release the fertilizer to him. I called the DCE myself, and the DCE released the fertilizer to him. So I can appreciate that there are challenges from the district to the MPs. But so far as we have distributed the fertilizers to the district in their name, I expect that if they have any challenges, to come back to me, and I will ensure, as I have done for more than 5 members of parliament on this side, I will ensure that they receive the fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, I will be surprised that my respected honorable member of parliament has received fertilizers for vulnerable farmers and are selling those fertilizers. I cannot believe that, and I can vouch for him that he will not be able to do that. But one thing I can say is that we have sent the fertilizers to his district, and if he has challenges accessing the fertilizers, he can prompt me, and I'll make sure that he gets it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, you know what is meant by direct service. Direct service. If you issue fertilizer in the name of a member of parliament, after having given notice to the member of parliament and giving the member of parliament the letter, and then direct the fertilizer to the district office, that is not direct service. They should have been directed straight to the member of parliament, and the member will receive them, and then the documents will show that they have been received by the member of parliament. But when you direct them to the district office, then you create a problem there. And that is what is happening. And you know, this is your election season. Both sides, it's election season, and I know the dynamics involved. It's not only on the opposition side, even the government side, the infighting there, which is more vicious than even the opposition side. So please, I think there's some problem there, but maybe you want to clarify it, you may do so.
the country and Parliament would demand accountability from me. And the processes for distributing such is through the district assembly, as is done through common fund. You have to send it to the district assembly for the assembly to receive it in their stores and then release to the member of Parliament. I'll be very happy if the rules of government allows me to take fertilizer from the ministry and just directly send it to my colleagues.
It's not me saying you should do it, but your statement
that is the process
has created the impression that the fertilizers are to be given directly to the members of Parliament. But as you said, governance is about using government officials and government agencies. And so you have to route them through that. As to whether they have reached the members of Parliament, that one you have to follow through later. And your attention has been drawn to the challenges you've been meeting. So in making statements, you don't say, you can say off the cap of your head as to what has reached this and what hasn't reached this. There are challenges along the way. And he in particular raised his challenge, and his constituents are listening to him. You see, and so this is a very delicate, very serious matter when it comes to elections, particularly in Ghana. So this is not the time for this kind of exchanges. As the minister himself has proposed, we can find space to go through this in detail, honorable members, so that we get a clarification for you to go back to your constituencies. By any case, don't be worried about these things, because the people have already decided. It's not this your current interventions. I've been in politics for a long time. I know I always win my elections long before election time. You know, it's not during just these few days that you win elections. And that's why I kept on drawing your attention to your performance for all the 4 years, not just 1 month or 1 week to election. May I allow please, we have to end this matter and move to other business. It's just business statement. I just want to get the response from the majority leader as chairman of the business committee. Please. Business statement. Well, if you are going on to a different issue on the business statement, then I'll start with my usual seniority, which is the order of Parliament. I'll start with Honorable Cletus Avoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from practice, or past experience, we know that we have this October to stay in Parliament, and then November we will break so that honorable members can go and campaign for 7th December election. I was thinking that the business statement will indicate how long we are going to be in the House between today and then at the end of October or first week of November, so the members will know the period ahead of them and program themselves. But as of now, we don't know how long we are going to be in Parliament. We don't know whether it will take another 2 weeks to be here or 3 weeks to be here, so that we can adequately program ourselves and then address the issues that we have in our respective constituencies. So I thought that if the majority leader knows the type of business he has presented just for this week, the type of business, he shall indicate what he wants us to do for the next 2 weeks, at least up to the end of October or first week of November. And then by consensus, we agree whether we have 2 weeks left or 3 weeks left for us to work and then be able to go to our respective constituencies to finalize our campaign and the elections. In the absence of that, I think that will be very, very difficult for members to work within the ambit of the time that we have, because we don't even know how long we can be here. So once he's here, he knows the business that government has. He should indicate to us how long we are going to be here and when we are breaking for elections. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Jinapo.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, this is not on the issue of the fertilizer. If you look at the business statement on page 1, you see presentation of first reading of bills. Several bills in respect of the energy sector. Critical among them is the proposal to merge Bui Power and the VRA. Mr. Speaker, following our clear stance that we will not support this, the minister responsible for energy, Minister Herbert Crapper, revealed on the 4th of October, that was Thursday, after meeting VRA staff, that government had taken a decision to withdraw these bills. And so what surprises me is that today, despite government's assurance that these bills will be withdrawn, we are seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bills, and 5 out of them has to do with the energy sector related issues. So I thought that the majority leader would have stood down in regard to government assuring that they will no longer proceed with them, because the Speaker, we've stated explicitly, without any equivocation, that we will not support these bills. And so my majority leader, you may want to clear the air as to whether indeed the minister's statement stands or you intend proceeding with these bills. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Bauer, then after you, the majority leader.
Hello? Good, thank you. Okay. Oh, it's okay, I'll use this. I'll use it. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I need some information, at least from the majority leader, for that matter, the leadership. You recall that Parliament, through the Finance Committee, was asked to give the Finance Minister an opportunity to use at least, I think it's around 500 million Ghana cedis from the contingency fund as part of the support that they needed for this drought issue. I do know that, yes, the procedure is that when the Finance Committee gives the approval, it is okay to go. However, the last time we were here during the recall, the understanding was that there had not been a consensus or maybe an agreement, a final decision for the approval of this amount. My information I have from members of the committee is that a decision had not been taken. I would want to know from the majority leader whether a decision was taken and whether government has been communicated to have that they have the approval to use at least 500 million Ghana cedis from the contingency fund. I just want to have that information, please. Thank you.
Yes, majority leader, you may have the last word. But most of these issues you are raising is question time. If you have issues on these things, you pose questions. But comments during business statement presentation, it takes it out of context. Yes, please, you may respond.
Mr. Speaker, please, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleading you this side of the House. We have been standing for more than 10 times, and your eye has not caught us. So we are appealing that maybe you help us before, just the last one, before the majority leader. It's on the same statement, please, the business statement, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member, sorry that you didn't catch my eye anyway. It's not my eye that should catch you. You have to catch my eye. Sorry. So I will come to you. Yes.
I'm grateful for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, he will come to me.
Majority Leader, you may go on.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that the issues that have been raised could be explored using other procedures. However, I've taken note of a lot of them, and I would like to work together with my colleagues to enable them have answers to some of the concerns. On the issue particularly raised by my respected colleague John Jinapo, yes, it is true. I am aware of the statement by Honorable Krapper to the effect that these bills are to be withdrawn. But as you know, this is a house of rules and procedure. Once we are in possession of a document, it becomes our property, and we are to proceed on them. These are indicative. They are not, cast in stone. So until he comes formally to withdraw, they remain in our records. So be assured, I want to lend support to that if he comes to withdraw it formally, so be it. But he's giving an indication that that's the position. So there's no cause for alarm. Mr. Speaker, without more, I would move that.
Yes, just before that, let me just listen to the cry of the honorable member.
Very well.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I'm Honorable Kuma Kintamponov. Mr. Speaker, my senior colleague, my senior member, Honorable Dafia Makbo, rose an important issue here, but it's like there's no reply to it. He quoted CI 126 about the Electoral Commission issue of exhibiting the voter register, which must be done at where they register the people. That's the polling stations. But it's like the Electoral Commissioner is not going by the law. That's the Regulation 2452, Regulation 231 and 3. She is not going by that law, and is rather trying to bring in a new law by which she is doing it online. And that is against this regulation. We were thinking there will be a reply to that, and it's like being brushed off. This is very important because this is what is going to give us the rightful information. Mr. Speaker, in Kintamponov, most of my communities do not have this rural telephony. And for my old lady at Bani and Busema or at Kunsu to be able to get a phone and to check online is an impossibility. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleading that this house is a house of laws. We should plead that the Electoral Commissioner do the needful by exhibiting the voter register, if even they will do it by clusters. Instead of online, this house has that power to demand of it so that all the populace will be fairly treated. I so plead, Mr.
Honorable
Speaker.
members, well, this is an urgent request. We'll try through the majority leader, get in touch with the Electoral Commission for them to appear before this house. Either tomorrow or tomorrow next, just respond to these things. The majority leader may not be in the position to give you any response because it doesn't work at the Electoral Commission. It can only pass on information. The other issue on the bills, please let it be known by all of you that I have not admitted these bills at all. I don't know how they found themselves on the order paper. And I queried the table office on that. I have not admitted them. Before business comes before the house, they have to be admitted, and you go through the standing orders, you see the processes that you pass through when they are private business and when they are public business. It's only when they are admitted by the speaker that they are processed by the clerk's office to the business committee, who then arrange them for the week. And these are now taken on to order paper for each day. So I have not admitted these businesses, the bills that are before us. And so they are actually not before us because they've not even been presented. And so those who have them still have them. They've not been submitted to the House, and they are not before the House. With this, I think that we will take the business statement as adopted, subject to the comments that have been made, and then the follow-up actions will be taken. Honorable members, I plead with you to take a few minutes. Few minutes, and then we come back. Just from 5 minutes. Yes?
Since we are doing light business, there are papers to be laid, just few.
5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Oh, very well, Mr. Speaker.
5 minutes suspension.
Okay, very well, Mr. Speaker, that is agreed.
Oval table. I know the oval.
Yeah, the oval. I mean, the oval is
no, White House, no oval now.
Huh?
White House, no oval now. Oval room.
There, field. Is there a word like field?
Here I am essentially a writer, and second, essentially a mother. Whereas before, I was essentially a university lecturer or a minister. In fact, being a mother didn't even come third place. You know, like, I think part of the problem behind why I had to leave was that my daughter was living with a public somebody. And considering also that, you know, I'm a single parent, you know, her father wasn't even alive somewhere.
Well, I can always put my S. When I lie awake and I play Scrabble, I mean business.
I can see the results.
My life in Zimbabwe and my life in Ghana, just before I left. I mean, like the two opposite sides of whatever, opposite poles.
You shut Oh, I shouldn't have brought you that.
Her i Ahura stat, der sandelig må være et af de bedste stykker land, hvor skaber Odoman Koma har givet mennesket, præges alt af mådehold. Solen står op hver dag, men sjældent brænder dens hede vore afgrøder. Regnbyerne er gode, når de falder, og Asase Efua, jordens gudinde, giver af sig selv til dem, der kender årstiderne. Der er en rigdom af floder, der som alle guder må have deres vrede øjeblikke og svulme. Men oversvømmelser har man knap nok set i mands minde. Bag os i nord sidder Abu Abura, vort smukke, ensomme bjerg med nakken mod himlene, og minder os om, at ikke hele jorden er flad. Mod syd brøler havet Nanabosombo. Tirsdagenes herre er han. Hans dag må være hellig. Vi kender ham godt, og selv den mindst eventyrlystne kan høste hans fisk, blot ved at sidde på hans smukke strande. Mens hans bølger for den tabre, der kan læse stjernebilleder, er lettere at berige end krusningerne i en grøft. Og du, mægtige Gud, og dine herskare, vore forfædre, vi siger ikke dette for at prale, men i ægte taknemmelighed. Jer beder vi om, at alting må vedblive og være godt, og endda blive bedre. Men nærm jeres øren til mig, mine venner, så jeg kan hviske jer en hemmelighed. Så velordnet vore herrer end måtte være, er de dygtigere til at slukke brande end til krigens kunst. Så jeg beder jer, lad ikke eftertiden dømme os for bittert, fordi vore huses herre på et farligt tidspunkt søgte beskyttelse hos dem, der kom fra hinsides horisonten mod vore mere aktive slægtninge i nord. Vi ønskede kun lidt fred. For den skyld brød vore fædre op. Og dog har vi fra klanernes forbund arvet en større forbrydelse. For at vi ikke skal glemme den, når tiden kommer, skal disse forter, som står ved døren til det store hav, minde vore børn, og også havet bærer vidne.
Den fornedrelse, som de gamle slaveforter vidner om, og den stolthed og glæde over Ghana, digtet giver udtryk for, er en vigtig baggrund for hele Amata Eidus forfatterskab. Derfor må vi til Ghana.
I come from this region of Ghana, this coastal region of Ghana. In Ghana, we call it the central region. I come from two villages. Traditionally, as an Akan, I'm supposed to come from my mother's village. But you see, although traditionally that is supposed to be my home because it is my mother's ancestral home, I have never lived there. I was not born there. I was not bred there. So we know it as home where we own some land, but really, when I say my village, I really normally mean my father's village. That's where I come from. My father was an Odikro. An Odikro is like a divisional, what they would call a divisional chief. He was the head of the village, and he also held a state title. So he was an Ohene, a proper one.
Der er fest i Høvdingegården, Amata Edus fødehjem, og det er netop for forfædrene, man fester. Den nye høvding, den anden efter faren, er Amata Edus fætter.
Oyine busopayin no ya aba hima ni wesen ampa asa na wo kwa akurumen ampa ni wodi bibi wodi kwale odede bibi bia wense ayinsa dede wodi nka de nsa bobala amako ampa afi apatesi ampa bala ma ba asa ampa na maraka eyi no isi obabayin opinyin na ohan odede nsem wodi kwa akurum Okobompa. Amata mi, mafra wa mana ato. Yo. Apa. Nanamu, omai, mbabein, esafo, nkuntanjafo, afunjafo.
We had the most incredible childhood. When we were growing up, my father always made it quite clear that he wanted us to go to school. And so before my time, children from our village were walking to the state capital to go to school. And my father said, no, this was not right. The children were doing too much walking to learn that when they arrived in, they got to school, they would be too tired. So he insisted on having our school in the village. And when he opened, I remember the day so well. My father, his elders, and everybody. And he opened the school. And I remember when he was giving his speech, he said, and I've quoted this all over, all the time, that, people might ask him why there were so many girls, almost as many girls as there were boys, including his own daughter. So then he quoted a famous statement by a famous Ghanaian called Agre of Africa. And he said, when you educate a man, you educate an individual. When you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And I genuinely think that this kind of orientation has been part of my own outlook on the world, in the sense that I had, right from the beginning, we are not Islamic, we the Akans, most of us are not. So that it is only later, when I came to even places like the university, where suddenly you are confronting things like, the negative attitude to women. Nobody told me when I was growing up that you can't do this because you are a woman. You can't do that because... No, it didn't exist in my background. My mother and my father, they were very easy about me. I mean, there was no apology, nothing.
Faren er ikke bare et minde, man kan drage frem ved passende lejligheder. Forfædrene besjæler stadig hele universet. De er i vinden og havet, jorden og bjergene, og de skal have både mad og drikke. Derfor strøs der hakkede jamsknolde på jorden. Og når man drikker, må man omhyggeligt give forfædrene deres del.
You know, you according to our people, you inherit your name and your soul from your father, but you inherit land, security from your mother. So this kind of balance has always been part of the ambience. I think that my mother has been fantastic. I mean, she has always understood. I have not been able to prevent myself from hurting her. You know, it's amazing. We nearly always hurt most the people we also care most. It has not been deliberate, but I have done things like become a whole minister of state without telling her. You know, she was so hurt when I accepted to become, for instance, the Secretary for Education without consulting her. How could, now that I'm looking back, how could I have done that? You see, she heard it on the radio. That, for instance, was not nice. But then she discussed it with me and we made up. Things like that have been happening. The village was full of people who were all busy practicing their craft and their art. But everybody was also a farmer, you know. There was a group in the village who told stories. Even my own mother, I remember so well, what she used to do was to tell her stories in the morning. And we had craftspeople, other artistic people, weavers, basket weavers. And then we had people who made stools. I mean, so in this kind of atmosphere, if you have something in you too, it came out. But then I had gone to school. And since I believe that maybe talent is transferable, I mean, since I had gone to school, then some of this basic talent that was around, mine got translated into writing books.
Skolegangen endte for Amata Aidous vedkommende med en universitetsgrad i engelsk fra Lincoln Universitetet i Accra. Men allerede i studietiden var hun begyndt at skrive. I dag flokkes de studerende om hende for at få hende til at kommentere sit berømteste skuespil, The Dilemma of a Ghost, et spøgelsesdilemma. Stykket foregår i en afrikansk landsby. Ato har giftet sig med en amerikansk pige, men til trods for, at de er samme hudfarve, støder de to kulturer sammen.
Julale, how long does it take you to put on a dress? Am I to wait here forever?
If you must know, darling Ato, I'm not coming along.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. Or don't you understand English either?
I'm waiting for you. If we aren't there by 9, the place would be full up and I wouldn't care to stand through a wall Thanksgiving service.
And of course, you would only have to come back here to sleep, wouldn't you? Only I repeat, I'm 8 coming along. Or are you too British? You cannot understand me Yankee lingo.
Julale, sweetie pie.
Aren't you going to say poor sweetie pie? Aren't I poorer here than I would have been in New York City? Eulalie, my people say they're not pleased to see you drink alcohol. Eulalie, my people say they're not pleased to see you smoke. Eulalie, my people say, my people, my people, my people. Ato, you're such a little rotten coward. I'm drinking in spite of what your people say. Who married me? You or your people? And why didn't you tell your people? You promised me we'd have kids when I wanted them.
They won't understand.
So you make them think I'm incapable of having kids just to save your own face?
It isn't that.
Then what is it?
They simply won't understand that one should begin having children only when one is prepared for them.
Sure not. What else can they understand but their own savage customs and standards?
Eulalie.
And you knew this, didn't you? You afterwards told me, didn't you, that they wanted me to strip before them and have my belly washed. Washed in that filth? What did you tell them I was before you picked me up?
Look here. I won't have you insult
my people. Go on, Ato, add it. I've had enough. I'm tired. I always have to do things to please your people. What about the sort of things I like? Don't they have any meaning on this land?
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
I thought you could do better than old cliches. Since you preach so well, can't you preach to your people to have just a little bit of understanding of things that don't know anything about you?
Shut up! How much does the American Negro know?
You compare these idiots...
Of course, I could have chosen a Ghanaian marriage, but maybe that didn't interest me too much. I could also have chosen a black man, white woman, that sort of thing, which is so ordinary, I thought. But precisely because of the historical connections with, African Americans, Afro-Americans, I thought that provided the most incredible data for writing about this. And obviously I wasn't wrong in the sense that the dilemma, it doesn't, it's like I haven't written anything else after the dilemma of the week.
Det er elever fra teater- og kunstlinjen, der deltager i diskussionen.
The history and the literature of human people is about the actions and the falling of men. And that literature is really about what makes men and what men do, not about women. So if you write about women, suddenly everybody is asking you, why are all your main characters women? I am a woman. When I stand in the front of a mirror in the morning, I don't see a man. Do you see? I see a woman. So when a woman writes about women, she's not being feminist. She is just being natural.
We can say, some people have said you are the anti-imperialist, the most anti-imperialist writer. Can you comment on it?
I think that's a compliment. But I don't think that I'm the most Marxist of Africa's writers. People will mention Gugi Wathiongo and other people. Yeah, but I don't know. It's the critics. You see, the critics, they will read these things and they start telling. I can't deny, I think, like I said, if people think that they can feel my socialist orientation or anti-imperialist orientation in my works, that's fine. I'm happy. Yeah. Thank you.
Ghana var det første afrikanske land, der blev selvstændigt i 1957. Nytårsnat 1982 overtog kaptajnløjtnant Jerry Rawlings ved et kup regeringsmagten og gjorde Amata Aidoo, der på det tidspunkt var lærer på universitetet i Cape Coast, til sin undervisningsminister. Amata Aidoo var nok først og fremmest inspireret af Ghanas første præsident Kwame Nkrumah. Det var ham, som blandt andet sagde, at Ghanas uafhængighed er meningsløs, hvis den ikke følges op af hele Afrikas befrielse. Her møder hun sin afløser og kollega.
In this hot seat, very, very hot, yes. As you know.
The whole essence of what we are trying to do in Ghana now is to just give meaning to, that statement of Nkrumah on the eve of our independence. Mm-hmm. People quote the others like, the independence of Ghana is meaningless and so on. But there is something that he said about a new African who has come onto the scene now, ready to take on responsibilities and make decisions
for himself and herself.
That's right. And we have not prepared our people to do that. And we continue to
expect things, if education doesn't prepare anybody to take charge, to take responsibility for his or her own life, then it is no education. We used to, we know that Ghana pays so much towards education, and yet really it is like coughing money into miseducation.
What were your ideas?
Oh, well, basically it was to democratize, education and make it more nationalistic. Yeah, but nationalistic in terms of more African, more Ghanaian content to education, and have more children going to school and stuff like that.
You have called yourself a critical patriot.
Have I?
Yes.
Where did I do that?
I have seen it in some interview with you.
I see. Yeah. And I think Ghanaians, nearly the whole nation is, are critical patriots because we are highly politicized people. Ghanaians don't sit. People discuss, they talk, I mean, all over. We've always been like this, and I suspect we'll be like this. Ghanaians are political from when they are 3. And they are political when they are over 100. So in that respect, I am not such a unique Ghanaian. I'm just a Ghanaian.
You didn't mind being a member of a military government?
I won't answer.
Sig mig, hvem du omgås, og jeg skal sige dig, hvem du er, hedder det på dansk. Og vi traf et par af Amata Aidous venner. Ricky er modedesigner og mener, at den selvtillid, mange afrikanere savner, blandt andet kan skabes via tøj.
Well, Ricky is Ricky. And we've just been friends. And I think it is not strange because he is also an artist. And I think that he understands some of my confusions. And he is very sympathetic and very supportive and appreciative, And people like that give you a lot of strength and courage.
Gladys Brenya er fiskegrosserer og ejer selv 12 fisketrålere.
Oh, Mrs. Brenya. She's a woman who works hard. She is in fishing. We met not so long ago, but I think we took to one another. She is a different type of friend, and she knows I respect her enormously for the sheer energy and the commitment with which she does her work. My goodness, she works hard. And in this society, women have always worked, always. And I think that she knows I admire her for this. It's that kind of friendship. Two women who like one another, I think, for the work they do. I don't think she knows me too well as a writer. I think she knows me more as a secretary, I think she heard me when I was secretary and stuff like that.
Ghana Bob Marley, the eye from a world about a man, the eye from a bodyguard.
Havet drøner stadig mod kysten. Forterne står der endnu og bærer vidne, også om den danske indsats. Her fra slavernes kyst, som Thorkild Hansen har kaldt den, udskibede Danmark i løbet af 200 år omkring 100.000 afrikanere. De skulle være billig arbejdskraft på vores sukkerplantager i Vestindien, men for hver en, der nåede frem, døde der 2 undervejs. Det var de lokale høvdinge, der forsynede europæerne med slaver. Til gengæld fik de brændevin, krudt og kugler, som de skulle bruge til deres indbyrdes krige. Den afrikanske samfundsstruktur blev knust, men pengene fra sukkeret blev grundlaget for hele den vestlige industrialisering. Den kostede en menneskelig fornedrelse, som afrikanerne har haft sværere ved at fortrænge end vi, der hverken dagligt har forterne for øje, eller skolebøger, der usminket fortæller om, hvad danske embedsmænd foretog sig med den danske konges og regerings velsignelse. En af slavehandlerne opnåede endog en medalje for menneskekærlighed.
The thing is that, as far as I'm concerned, since we met you people 500 years ago, look at us. We've given everything. You are still taking. It's true. I mean, where would the whole Western world be without Africa? Our cocoa, our timber, our gold, our diamonds, our platinum, our whatever. Everything you are is us. I am not saying it, it's a fact. And in return for all of this, what have we got? Nothing. Anti-personnel indoctrination against ourselves. If you go and cook your horrible diseases like AIDS, you say it is us. You brought us tuberculosis. We didn't have this big cough until white people came here. In exchange for Africa giving Europe 500 solid years of our people, I mean not Europe, the Western world, of our human beings to work your canes, to dig your gold, to take in gold itself, diamond, I mean you know, fish, peanuts, palm oil, everything. In exchange for that, we have got nothing. Nothing. And you know it. Nothing. And you look upon, white folks look upon us like monkeys. It is true. It's in your literature. Hey, some of your best thinkers have said this about us. Have you heard of all these Germans? Have you heard? Okay. Yes. They said, Lord Burton, yes. People like that, they said, we don't even have the brain of animals. That's what we've got from you people.
But don't you think that this is over now?
Over where? Is it over? Who said that AIDS came from the green monkey? Is it over? Is it over?
Well, if this is your impression, do you think that you can ever forgive us?
It's not a question of forgiveness. I have nothing against you. My point is that you did and you are doing for your survival what is necessary. We can't blame you for that. The fact that we didn't do enough for our own survival and we are still not doing enough for our survival, that is not your problem. Even everybody that God has created has a sense of survival, and if we don't develop it, we can't blame white people. You came here because you needed these things. You took gunpowder from the Chinese. You needed them to shoot people. I think that for me and members of my family, Elmina Castle has got a very, very special significance because they tortured my father's father, my real grandfather, to death there by the colonial government. So for me, when people like me talk about colonization, neo-colonization, it's not just because one is being intellectually smart. We have personal touches with it. I cannot forget that this happened to my grandfather.
Do you consider AIDS as a new form of colonization?
Of course.
Why?
That's why. My people, the Akans, we have a proverb. it says that good morning, thank you is never enough to salt anybody's food forever. You cannot build your life on thank you, thank you, thank you, morning, thank you, English, thank you, God. You know, which is what aid makes, you know, we are always receiving. Nobody, look, and I don't care who hears, nobody anywhere in this world is going to send you their best of anything. Do you see? Neither the experts nor people, you give us what you can afford. Aid is the leftover, really, and it cannot be enough. Aid, you can, when, you know, the world is, now the world is one place. So, there is nothing wrong if my house is in a crisis and you offered me something. There's nothing wrong, you know, because there is interrelationship. But a whole nation, a whole continent cannot live forever on aid. And I think aid is we are in Africa, we are in danger of making foreign aid a kind of policy that is wrong. I think that it humiliates our people. The people in the villages have not asked anybody to go around begging on their behalf.
7 polemiske bøger er det blevet til. Det er skuespil, noveller, en roman, digte og fortællinger for børn. Alt skrevet på engelsk, som falder Amata Aidoo lettest. Bøgerne er båret af en ægte indignation mod et hvert magtmisbrug. Hos kolonisterne, men ikke mindst hos hendes egne.
Well, I'm being a writer, really. It is crazy. It is a very self-consuming kind of activity. You know, you sit in a room, you write, and you think that other people outside want to hear it. The tensions of, writing a book, it's tense. When you finish writing the book, you are tense because you wonder, how will the publishers and editors react to a book, to a story? Even when it's published, you wonder, why are they saying that my books are selling in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Sierra Leone, Botswana, Lesotho, even South Africa, Kenya, and I'm still so poor. So all of these issues are part of the horror, real horror, of being a woman, a writer, an African. But you don't stop writing because of any of them. You just go on. Life is like that.
Our friends Abra ye to abrofu ma wa kwe. Wo ma ye te hia ho ase. De ye nyina ye benya fahudi. Ye nyina ye bre mere be ye. Na so hwamende Ghana ye. Eldenyi wasi abrofu wasi. Enho ma waye no wadi si ho mo no mare sesi a nya bibifo ya beso. Mama sitre mo tarenyi. Emi na meye nya brem mo tarenyi. Waya abrofun kandia wo mehebi. Wo ma ho pipe wo mehebi. Ibre ya na yada ho yanom na muwre. Na trafa hodin wana na fa hoda. Na mukwedi semi oyedo.
Welcome. I'm very excited today to talk about effective